Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I now call this meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Elections to order. It's February 2nd at 3 o'clock. All 7 board members are present for this in-person meeting. And I believe that the first item on the agenda, other than my declaring the quorum present, is my remarks. The only remarks I have for today is to thank all of my colleagues and also the staff for a very successful staff appreciation lunch today. We're now making it a tradition that at least once a year we have an opportunity to basically throw a lunch for the staff and to tell them how much we appreciate them and their work. And today we were honored to be joined by 2 historic figures of Montgomery County, former County Executive Ike Leggett and former Congresswoman Connie Morello. And they both provided us with some inspirational words, and I thought it was great that we had that opportunity, and I thank all of you for your participation in it and making it successful. Are there any other comments that anyone wants to make? Okay, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Boris.
Yeah, if I may ask, board, later today in my director's report, I'm going to reflect on a language assistance program that was introduced by legislation from 2025. I will also inform the board that on January 22nd, the state election administrator identified additional languages that we as a board have to provide assistance to our voters. There are 3 more languages. However, if we would like to provide limited assistance in other languages in the county, I have to ask for a waiver from the state. In order to do that, I would like to seek board support to take that action, because I have to submit a form, and the first question is asked, when did the board approve the plans of granted support for that kind of activity? Our plan is to have a voter guide, a sample ballot, instructions how to vote on our website in languages, and we have an option to utilize county agency to do translation for us in more than 3 languages that are required by the law. And I believe that, in my opinion, we should see that opportunity and produce it.
But we'll be happy to consider that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, to do it, but I'm one vote. I'll just say that I don't know that I want to give you as broad an approval as we can, because we routinely do more with more languages than what we're legally required to do. And I don't want you to have to come back to us for additional approval to do another activity, you know, that we all would support. So when it comes time for us to, you'll tell us when that time is. I want to give you as broad a support as possible, because it's a little bit odd that in order for us to continue to do what we already have done, we have to ask permission. But whatever the case, if that's what it takes, I'm certainly happy to do that. I think we are. I think we're doing some very important work, and we certainly need to continue to do it. That's this board member's opinion.
I mean, the only thing I'll add is that the data also supports it. I mean, 1 out of every 3 residents was born outside of the United States. So that's a third of our population, clearly.
And it's increasing.
Yes, it is increasing.
And it's increasing.
Based on the last census that was done. So obviously anything that helps in terms of educate our voters.
It looks like I'm praying on the screen there.
Mr. President, are we going to have an opportunity to discuss this later?
Yes.
No, I thought
Yes.
Mr. President, I thought this discussion was on changing the agenda.
Right. I
It
think.
seems to me that should come under new business.
Right. I think that Boris is saying that he wants to add it to our agenda.
Absolutely, that's right.
That was how I interpreted what Boris was saying. So yes, if we can definitely let's just do that under new business. And happy to do that. Are there any other changes to the agenda? I would just say, as board members know, when it gets to the report on legislation, I'm gonna talk about the bill relating to substitute members of the board, and then I'm also going to talk about an additional bill that is being heard this week and next, one in the House and one in the Senate, just to get the sense of the board. That's already on the agenda. I'm just letting you know that I'm just filling in some of the detail there. Okay, anything else about the agenda? All right, let's move on to disclosure of campaign contributions, attendance of fundraisers. Does anyone have anything that they would like to disclose? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to public comments. Has anyone signed up for public comments?
We received public comments from Mr.
Oh, a request, my apologies, a request to speak today.
But
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know if he's on.
Was he waiting for us to tell him that it was okay to be on? Because of course he can speak.
I know, I said, I don't know if he's
Yeah.
on.
He's spoken before.
Yeah, no, well, there's no problem with his speaking. I do not see him on, oh, yes, he is. There he is. He is on. So can we,
He got his hand up.
okay, Jerry, could you please promote Michael Fletcher to be a panelist? Okay, there he is. Hello, Mr. Fletcher.
Mr. Damon?
It's a pleasure to see you. Actually, I'm just gonna turn off that camera. Please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
All right. President Naaman, Vice President Karoma, and board members. As most of you know, I have been providing comments to the Montgomery County Board of Elections since 2022. Most of these comments involve citizen-identified problems with the voter registration list, such as duplicate voters, deceased voters, and voters who have moved out of the county or state. The common thread connecting all of my comments in that period is that nothing has changed that would improve the accuracy of the list. The responses that I have received from the Montgomery County Board, and in some cases from the State Board, regarding these problems have generally followed the template of, thank you for your information, but the processes we use to maintain the accuracy of the list are just fine and do not require any improvements. In fact, the only changes made by the State Board in response to my comments were to make it more difficult to remove deceased registrants from the voter rolls. Now the Republican National Committee and the Maryland GOP have filed a lawsuit highlighting how the inaccurate voter registration list in Maryland prevents the RNC and the GOP and candidates for office from providing cost-effective voter services, such as registration drives and voter turnout efforts. The lawsuit also raises the more serious problem that inaccurate voter rolls may allow a valid voter's vote to be canceled by an ineligible voter carried on the registration list. An inaccurate registration list can promote a voter fraud and result in a violation of a citizen's fundamental right to vote. On January 12th, the Montgomery County Board of Elections issued a media advisory that recounts the processes used by the board to maintain the registration list. I could have written the media advisory for the board, probably save you some money, because it follows the time-worn template that the processes we use to maintain the accuracy of the list are just fine and do not require any improvements. The remainder of my comments are a detailed discussion of the items addressed in the media advisory. However, they are too long for me to state them in the time allowed for public comment. Therefore, these detailed comments have been submitted as an attachment. The most important of these comments probably is the one that points out that same-day registration in Maryland means there is zero risk that an eligible voter will be disenfranchised by an erroneous removal from the list. A voter who is mistakenly removed can still register and vote on the same day. The real risk is vote dilution caused by inflated rolls that increase the opportunity for fraudulent or improper voting. Protecting outdated registrations at all costs does not protect voters. It weakens the system for everyone. That is the extent of my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me, whoops. That was good, Mr. Fletcher. You did it right within the 3 minutes. So thank you.
I
Thank you for
practiced.
that, because that sound you heard was my timer going off. So that was absolutely perfect. So thank you for that. I disagree with a number of things that you said. I'm sure that's shocking. But let me and I'm not going to go through point by point, but let me say a few things. First of all, our January 12th media advisory, I would encourage you to look at it again and try to look at it with an open mind, because there is nothing in that media advisory in which we described some of what we do. We described that that we have done things that we didn't do before. We never said that everything is just fine and doesn't require improvement. Now, require is obviously a subjective idea as to whether, what you think we require, what we think we require, or what I think and what my colleagues think might be different. But we're definitely open to improving all of our processes. We think we have good elections in Montgomery County that can always be made better. And we're always happy to hear about that. I would say that there are a number of things that require some leaps of logic or fact in order to, you made the statement that basically there's a bigger chance of somebody with an inaccurate voter roll, if an ineligible voter voting and canceling the vote of an eligible voter, than there is of removing an eligible voter from the polls because of same-day registration. And I don't know that there's data to suggest that. And I'm not sure I want to get into all the details on that. I will say that I don't think that when you say someone can vote the same day if they've been removed, if you've ever had the experience of going to the polls and finding that you're not on the voter registration list, and I have not, but I've been with people who have, that is a very unhappy experience that we definitely would prefer to avoid. On the other hand, I think everyone wants the voter rolls to be as accurate as they can be, balancing all of those interests between the voters who, and also, of course, following federal law, state statute, state regulation. So I definitely don't agree with the idea that we on this board were saying in our statement that there's no room to do anything else. And I would add, we're 7 people with at least 7 opinions. So I imagine that on the kinds of improvements that could be made, we might all have ideas on improvements. The goal of that statement was to make clear, because there was a lawsuit out there with a particular point of view, to make clear what the facts are as to what we do, and only to do it in summary form. That was not meant to be intricate detail on everything.
Sure.
So anyway, so we appreciate your coming to see us. We've missed you for a few meetings. I don't remember exactly when the last time was that you joined us, but it's good to see you back, and we look forward to your next appearance. Yes, I was going to say, if any of my colleagues have anything they'd like to say, I'm happy to call on you. Go ahead, Alex.
Would it be permissible to ask Mr. Fletcher a question?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Mr. Fletcher, have you been able to think about what things you would like us to do that we're not currently doing, that state law either permits or does not forbid?
That's a really good question.
Yes, Mr. Vincent. I think one of the problems I've had all along is that Eric, and we've discussed Eric in previous meetings. The big problem with Eric is not all states are in Eric. So when people move out of Maryland and go somewhere that's not an Eric state, they get lost. But most likely remain on the Maryland voter rolls. I think there are other systems. Some of the comments I gave you in the past were based on like the Cause of America did an analysis of Maryland voting rolls. There are other, in fact, within the group that I'm in now, there are data analysts who are able to go through the Maryland voter rolls and extract duplicate voters, people who are dead. I don't think that the state law requires that you just be limited to using ERIC to analyze the voter rolls.
We're not limited to using ERIC, and we don't limit ourselves to using ERIC. I mean, we've never suggested that ERIC is the sole way to affect our voter rolls.
I understand, but there are other methods of analyzing the voter rolls and detecting people, even if they're not in ERIC states. People who have died, duplicate voters, people who have moved. So.
Well, and I'll just say to that, and I'll come back to you, Alex, because I know it's your question. But as you know, Mr. Fletcher, I've commented on multiple occasions about the difficulties of the using ERIC with non-ERIC states. I happen to have two children born the same day, one of whom re-registered in an ERIC state and one of whom re-registered in a non-ERIC state, and you could tell the difference. I mean, you know, in terms of how their voter registration was affected. I personally believe that more states joining ERIC would be a plus for us, but by no means is ERIC a panacea. I mean, ERIC is one important tool. And there may be others. I think that that Alex's Mr. Vincent's point is a really important one, which is that if there are things that we can do under current law that we're not already doing, you know, that would be very valuable for us to know. Keeping in mind, of course, that under Maryland's system, you know, the State Board of Elections can tell us what to do. We cannot tell them what to do.
Yes.
We can make suggestions, but you know, they under the law are the authority over us. But be that as it may, if there are things that how did you put it really well, Alex? It was that are either allowed or not prohibited.
Yeah.
You know,
It's specific actions, not just analyzing.
right.
Yeah.
Specific actions, because the other thing I think that we have to be cautious of is that if you make if we rely on others to give us their analysis of the voter rolls, they can be very selective in ways that would be unfair for us to be selective.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, someone can limit themselves to certain geographic areas, certain party affiliations, certain age categories, et cetera, all of which come with you know, political and legal consequences. And you know, I would get very nervous about our not having a unified system of enforcement for everyone. That's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm sorry, Alex, I was stealing your time there, but
Yeah, no, I just wondered if there was anything else besides the data analysts or other methods that you mentioned, Mr. Fletcher, and I'd be very curious to have you perhaps at another time specify or list what those are. Do you have any other ideas on that score about what we could do that is currently allowed by state law or at least not forbidden?
I'll have to think about that, Mr. Vincent. And I will come up with something and come back for another meeting. How's
okay.
that?
Well, you're invited back. Not that you need an invitation. And we'll be interested to hear what you have to say. And we appreciate your speaking with us today.
Well, thank you very much for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have any other public comments?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, let me just take a quick peek to see whether anyone else's hand is up. Which I do not see. So, okay, let's move on then to the director's report.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. All the materials for today's board meeting were shared with the board and published on our website last Thursday. That's standard practice for the Montgomery County. When it comes to voter registration changes month to month, you will see that certain dip, I would say, in the number of registered voters for the month of December. Nothing unusual here. Maybe the number is bit reduction is a bit higher, but keep in mind that this month captures all the results of our mass emails that went out, all the changes that followed that, additional all the data that was processed through NCOA, Eric, that we received, plus December is kind of always slow month in terms of addition to voter registration. So it's a month where we remove people and more than they were added. So we are currently at 702,000 registered voters, still over 700,000. With, as I said, significant number of removed voters since the last board meeting. When it comes to the State Board of Elections, there are a couple of news that I wanted to share with the board and have them for our public as well. The State Board of Elections went through procurement process, and the Board of Public Works approved the new vendor for the new poll books that we should have in process being used in 2028 elections. That vendor is 10X Software Solutions from Tampa, Florida. And as I said, the state will run its course of all the testing and everything that needs to be put in place for 2028. 2026, we are still using our legacy poll books that we used for many elections before. On December 18th, the state board unanimously approved our election plan for 2026 election. And in the same session, the state election administrator announced all the local boards that need to provide additional language assistance as per the election law 50.50101. That's the provision that was included in 2025 General Assembly session. So additional languages that identified for Montgomery County include Amharic, Chinese, Vietnamese, and of course Spanish that we always had before. Also in the same session, the state board approved the latest policy, which is related to my obligation to report to the board about election judges parity of election judges appointed at the polling places. The policy mandates that I try to achieve parity among the principal political parties at each polling place, and requires for me to report to the board monthly on my progress. I have to be very honest with the board that my report for month of February is 0, for the very simple reason we have not started training. So once we start training, we will start allocating those judges who successfully pass the training. Our training is scheduled of election judges to start in mid-March. So I'm just coming forward to the board, tell you nothing to report for February, nothing to report for the March. I think that there was some reporting that I did in previous years on this issue. This policy requires a bit more details that we will deliver to the board once we have it.
Is there anything in the instruction that discusses how I mean, they're asking you about parity in a county that has 4 times as many Democrats as Republicans and used to have even more. And we've already made a significant priority out of doing outreach, not only to Republicans and unaffiliated voters, but to different areas of the county. I mean, we've done a lot in this area, but I mean, it seems like you're going to be coming to us every month and telling us that we don't have parity, in part because that's the voter population that we have.
Absolutely correct. And I think that board articulated this understanding in previous elections, and I have to repeat it. on behalf of the staff, we cannot manufacture the numbers to achieve parity. There are no individuals to achieve it. There is a provision in the law which requires us to achieve parity among chief judges until a certain date before the election. And after that date, we can consider and appoint unaffiliated voters to the chief judge's position. I'll be honest with the board, for me as election director and for all my team, achieving parity among the chief judges is our number one priority. However, to achieve that parity, we need 230 Republican chief judges. And we never had them so far.
And they also need to be willing to go to the precincts where you need them, which may or may not be where they live.
It's very likely the case.
Mhm.
Because, as I said, we have never had, to my knowledge, and people confirm, 230 chief judges that are affiliated with Republican political party. So I understand that everyone would like to see a parity across the whole structure of the polling place, me included. But I believe the board will support me that my priority is to have chiefs parity first. And then if I can get parity among VOPs, provisionals of SBR, even better. But historically, we are never even close to that number to have parity. So we will do our best. I'll keep reporting to the board, but I think that managing expectations in terms of what will actually the end result is really crucial.
And I guess I want to, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I want to say to my Republican colleagues, if you have thoughts as to things that we can do that we aren't, please, let us know. Because I don't think that the lack of parity is for lack of trying. And so, but if there are things that we should be trying that we aren't, then, I want to consider that.
Well, it seems to me that as a specific issue, this has not been adequately brought to the attention of the Republican Central Committee. And so a particular focus on bringing this issue to them might bring some results. The general approach of the necessity of getting Republican volunteers to staff the polling places has, I know, been brought to their attention, but the focus on, the chief level has not been.
Yeah, there are two angles here. Number one, staffing polling places throughout the county.
Yes.
That's number one, meaning someone, I don't call any location, but let's say someone from Northern County, Paulsville,
Yeah.
Damascus, right, to be willing to go to Silver Spring or Bethesda because we don't have a Republican chief judge there, or vice versa if we don't have Democrats in certain northern parts. And the second thing is chiefs. I think that chiefs are, again, they're called chiefs for a reason. They have an important role to play at the polling place. And maybe my understanding is wrong, but I still believe that that is my first priority. If I can achieve parity among the chiefs at the polling place, then everything else.
Yeah.
Whether there are volunteers who are willing to be chiefs in high numbers out there.
No.
I know that for the last election, we worked with the board members. We attended many outreach events that were organized by the Republican Central Committee or Republican Women Group. I know that we showed up at any event that we were invited or we heard of. I know that at certain point we filtered emails of Republicans on our voter rolls and targeted areas, whole districts. Just Republicans saying, we need your party affiliation, you, your family, loved ones, friends, neighbors, colleagues, whomever you know. So we did our part, I believe, to the extent that if we missed some opportunity to do something that we didn't do, let us know. But we tried. That was my understanding. 44, we tried, really tried.
Keep on beating on it.
Alex,
Are you willing to hire a chief judge who has not been a judge before?
Yes. However, the fact that someone is of certain party affiliation that we need at certain location doesn't set stage for lowering standards of performance in any sense.
Understood.
So I'll be very blunt. The fact that we would like you to serve doesn't change our expectations from you. Your expectations stay the same that we have across the county, across every polling place.
I understand. I had another question. Every so often, a registered Republican from a neighboring county
Okay.
will call me and ask whether they could serve here.
Yes,
Is that permissible?
yes. Because I think my understanding is as long as they are registered voters in the state of Maryland, and obviously we have a shortage that we can cover more than enough. There, we have election judges who served in this county for 3 or 4 election cycles and then moved to PG, moved to Frederick. They're still coming back to serve because there is some group of people who are serving in the same polling place, right? Every election. So we are not an obstacle to anyone who serves. And if we would be lucky enough or fortunate enough to have a surplus of 300 election judges every election cycle, we would have different conversations here. We are not that fortunate. Okay, so before we start turning away anyone from Frederick, let's stop 100%, and then we will deal with Frederick BOE for stealing their election judges. That's different conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you whether they're stealing from us, whether we have Montgomery County residents who are serving there.
It's one of those questions that you don't really want to find the
There we
answer,
go.
right? Because now the pay is leveled across the counties, so maybe previously it was the other way around because we were paying more than other counties. Now it's level field because of the state law, so.
Well,
For
I'm
me,
not
it's better.
suggesting that I've made some orchestrated campaign.
Yes,
Clear.
yes.
At least
Sometimes,
polling place is covered by Alex Vincent content.
That's right.
how I understand.
I will receive unsolicited requests.
Well, now that you've said it in a public forum, I'm sure
Yeah.
that.
I just, as I said, anyone is welcome, as long as we have our training done right, performance done right. We keep our standards high.
Okay, anything else on that? Chief, please go ahead.
Okay, when it comes to personnel, we're going through hiring for 2 positions. One is the lead trainer, but the other one is a manager for outreach, recruitment and training. We are hopeful in February that we'll wrap up those 2 positions, but again, until we have the individuals in the building, keep it as such. When it comes to temporary positions, nothing changes apart from the fact that February and March are coming in. These are the months when most of our temporary colleagues will start joining us. Maybe this year we'll have less returning temporary employees than in previous years, which means a bit more training coming earlier on board. If someone has served with us for 2-3 elections, they need maybe a week of refresher how to process everything. When someone is brand new, we take our time to train those people and find the best location for them to work. When it comes to budget, it's very brief. We finished our second quarter analysis. When I say we, Lisa finished second quarter analysis, we are where we should be. Again, the major expenses at this point are still the state bills. I think we got the last one is around $600,000, and everything within the expectations, within the targets. No concerns yet when it comes to that. When it comes to communication, I want to just bring it up to the board's attention that election law prescribes that if you request to be on permanent vote by mail list and fail to return your voted mail-in ballot for 2 consecutive general elections, you'll be removed from the permanent vote by mail list. Does not affect your voter registration status, does not affect your ability to submit a new request for vote by mail ballot. It just says that if you requested to be on the permanent vote by mail list, fail to return that ballot for 2 general consecutive elections, you are removed. So in our county, we'll remove a bit under 2,200 people. Within the next 2 weeks, they will receive a letter notifying them of the actions that were undertaken and legal background why those actions were undertaken, and telling them your registration is still clear. You still have right to request new vote by mail ballot. Here's how you can do. When it comes to section activities, when it comes to voter services, voter registration, I would say Sunday business as usual. Data is coming in, data is getting processed from different sources as all the time. Vote by mail team, we are reaching out to nursing homes, facilities. Again, we are trying to play ahead of time, not to play catch as we get closer to election. We are trying to get anyone who is interested in those nursing homes, like new residents, to get registered now. If they would like to vote by mail, to request it now, so we don't have a time crush as we get closer to the election. Candidate filing deadline is 24th of February, 9 p.m. We shared the list numbers of candidates that filed as of last Wednesday. I can tell you right now, it's not accurate as of today, and that's normal. That's how it should be. You should have to go to our website. There is a link to the state website, or you go straight to the state website to see number of candidates. I believe that we will have certain influx of candidates as we get closer, especially if you look the number of candidates that apply for the central committees. I think we are still under the minimum number to have positions covered. So I would say, yeah, quite few individuals will come forward and file in the next period. Voting system information technology section. Maintenance of our equipment, we do it on the state board schedule. Charging of the batteries, that was completed. We are still working with the TABS technology and the enterprise business solutions on election resource management system. That's coming to a rollout phase pretty soon. That will help us to open up to have volunteers sign up to serve as election judges and do anything online that they want to do. Take the quiz, schedule their own training, their own time, their own location that is suitable for them. Janet is still working with all the documents to meet ADA requirement of accessibility of our documents that are published on the website. We have quite a few documents, Janet, and we are working on it. It will take some time. This board has generated a lot of documents in the last, 15 years?
Yes.
So we have to go through all of them. And you will notice on the agenda that we removed the red color that we had certain written. Is Janet.
He's blaming you, Janet.
It's a requirement that we have to minimize the use of different colors, and the red color was identified as one that is inapplicable. For colorblind.
I gather we're still allowed to use the red color for the Maryland and Montgomery County and US flags.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'm colorblind, Boris, but I like red. And I don't want to see it.
Well, we'll simplify it, Alex. Elections operations section, 2024 elections, storage retention. Board would recall that we are legally required to retain all the election documents for 22 months per federal law. Ongoing preparation in our warehouse, intake supplies, to organize supplies, to prepare everything to be dispatched. Outreach, recruitment, and training session. Outreach, we will leave that for Dr. Zelaya later on. He will talk a bit more about specific activities, but we are back in the community, we are back in schools. Recruitment teams actually process applications and works with them because of testing. We are trying to test every aspect of the new system before our temporary colleagues come in. So we have SOPs for them ready, and everything is smooth to the extent it can possible be. And I have to report that on January 17th, we organized actually the first mock training for the new election judges, because we tried to redesign the job guides and for the election judges who have them, which they have in front of them at the polling place. So we brought in 6 experienced election judges, most of them are chiefs, to go through a VOP training by following the guides only. And then to tell us feedback, which areas we have to tweak, where do they see a soft spot. So we did that exercise, we updated documents, we resent them back to the chiefs, received some new comments. We just want to, as I said, if we are rolling something new out, we would like to run it through proper mock training, and this was really good opportunity. When it comes to meetings and events, a couple of team members attended joint election official liaison conference that was held in Pentagon City. It's annual event. It's organized by Election Center. I was there. It was actually a very nice opportunity to meet quite a few colleagues across the nation. And we had multiple keynote speakers. A keynote speaker was a Postmaster General. And we, of course, postmark issue was brought up and elaborated. And he brought a team who provided more technical details on the issues that board has covered previously in their letter. We had state postal inspectors visiting our office. They were accompanied by the deputy state election administrator. The conversation was about incoming and outgoing mail. How do we receive mail? How do we send the mail out? What are the steps? Anything that state postal inspectors can look at that. The board will recall, I think for 2024, especially primary, there was a big issue of quite a few robberies that took place of the USPS
Of the mailboxes.
mailboxes. Some ballots were taken in that process. Some of those ballots were recovered by US postal inspectors and law enforcement agencies. Those ballots were delivered to us. There's a whole process that they follow on their end, because those ballots were not target of the robbery. It was gift cards, as we would all record in 2024, but
The envelopes were unopened?
yeah, everything was properly done. But again, those ballots were just collateral pickup and for those. But again, we prefer, just like the board likes to sit down with the postmasters in run to elections, we also appreciate any opportunity to talk to any part of the USPS service, right? Inspectors, definitely.
Speaking of that, do you think that we should have a meeting with our postmasters again before the primary?
We should, before the ballots go out,
Yeah.
so we still have time. My understanding, Sandy, May 9th, ballots will go out, roughly like that.
Yeah, thereabouts.
May 9th, so I would say sometime in April.
Okay,
So I think our schedule dictates that in March we meet with the campaigns and candidates.
right.
And April would be a good time for the
That
postmasters.
sounds, that,
So we have some.
that sounds great. That doesn't necessarily have to be an entire board activity, but I want to make sure that we keep that communication line open.
Fair enough. I just have to see, like, I believe that last time we managed to get every postmaster and the chief, like 23 individuals,
Yeah,
24.
we did.
Yeah, we'll work sometime
Yeah.
in March, start rolling that out and find a good time for that.
Great.
And on January 22nd, the board organized a tour of its building for the media representatives. There's a typo here. There were 7 media outlets actually that were present, not 6 in my report. So I think it was a great opportunity for all the media representatives to come, see, ask questions. And I believe that to fine tune maybe some messaging, why do we have some messages, to increase the understanding of importance of those messages, and to start working immediately with Gilberto how better to do messaging of returning mail-in ballots, the issue of postmarks, what's the importance, what does mean timely, untimely, and stuff like that. So that would be my report.
I on that last point, and perhaps this will be a follow-up from the meeting, but I have not seen any media stories as a result of that tour.
Okay.
And I don't know that's because they, just background information for the media members or whether there were any stories, but if you could check with Roberto, see if there's anything out there that I think the whole board would probably be interested in knowing.
Yeah,
about that.
if I may be honest with the board, I understand the value of stories being written after the visit, which is very important. I think that equally important and very selfishly for the staff point of view is their understanding of our language and our issues, like seeing it firsthand.
Oh, I agree.
So then not
Agreed.
absorbing like 6 lines that are produced as a press release or press note, for them to understand what does it mean, Dropbox? What does it mean, USPS? What's the difference? Why sorter machine, right?
Yeah, no, let me just say that all of the tours that we offered, the open house tour, we had some elected officials on a tour, we've had media representatives on tour, they're all an investment in the future. The fact that there's no immediate action does not mean that it wasn't a worthwhile use of their time or ours. All I'm saying is that if there was something that was done as a result, I just want to know about it. That's all. Larry.
In the presentation by the Postmaster General and his team that you saw, was there any suggestion of their ability or willingness to treat election mail differently than just whatever gets thrown in the remote rural box? Would they go looking for ballots or are they gonna, I mean, if they look separate, will they be treated separately?
So there was emphasis and Sandy, Lisa, wait, if you could add, if I forgot something. Emphasis was on official election mail, the importance of that logo that is being used on each element. Now, the fact that Maryland is using it does not necessarily mean that it's well used coherently across the nation in every state. And I believe he was talking about United States, not just Maryland itself. This was a national conference. He did emphasize in regards to the postmarks that, again, that this was just to codify the practice that already existed and emphasize two things. Number one, there is always possibility to get a hand postmark in the office, your local post office. And number two, 7 days before the election day is good time to send your ballot.
Well, you know, that's what they've been saying for a long time, and is not, quite frankly, not all that helpful. Because I think what Larry was saying, which I think is true, is that, first of all, if you send it 7 days before and they don't prioritize election mail, you know, we don't know if it's going to arrive on time. Secondly, under Maryland law, they can request it 7 days before.
I know.
And once again, I mean, yes, we will tell everyone who will listen that they shouldn't wait. And we will tell everyone who would listen that if they do wait, that they should go into a post office and get a hand postmark, assuming, of course, they have time to wait in line, et cetera, et cetera. But what Larry was just suggesting in terms of prioritizing that mail in that 7 day period would be a huge help.
Yeah, but they're not
Yeah.
gonna do that. I mean, they're,
Well, they certainly won't do it if no one asks them.
yeah, but I don't think they're gonna do it anyhow.
The Postmaster General said that they prioritize election mail and they actually do a sweep of the post offices as well, looking for election mail. So they do that, they have a scheduled sweep of all of the facilities to make sure they're capturing all the election mail they can.
But the sweep wouldn't catch even official election mail put out in a rural collection box that only has a 3-day collection cycle. They wouldn't know about that till it got
Yeah.
till the post office. Okay.
There are two things. The official election mail logo is the insignia that identifies mail that should be prioritized based on their election needs. That's so.
Do our return postage with ballots have that insignia on it?
Yes,
Okay.
the problem is web delivery ballots. No one can prioritize those
No, I understand.
because they come in every shape and form and everything. So
Understood.
Yeah.
But we can only do as much as we can do.
absolutely.
But even so, if, well, first of all, our local post office will know that that's addressed to us. I mean, they'll know it's election mail. But, well, anything that can be done to encourage them to live up to what if they say that they're doing sweeps and that they're, you know, and that they really are making the effort to distinguish, you know, election mail, you know, anything we can do to encourage that. But yes, we have a big messaging challenge.
Yeah.
You know, and our, you know, part of the messaging challenge is, you know, okay, you have to choose this type of mail-in ballot or that type of mail-in ballot, and then you have to choose this type of collection of your mail-in ballot or that type of collection of your mail-in ballot. And I think you just have to let people know, you know, what's the quickest way and, you know, and what is not necessarily as quick. And, you know, but anything that we can do, I mean, I certainly would expect that if we're gonna meet with the local postmasters, part of what we're gonna say to them is anything you can do to prioritize election
Sure.
mail, we would appreciate.
But if
Yeah.
they actually prioritized election mail, I would think the number of ballots we get that are postmarked the day after election would be way low.
But not necessarily, because it really depends on where the mail fits, like the local post office. So for example, I mean, we talk about Montgomery County, we have people who work all around the world, right? And in other words, you know, if you have somebody who's working overseas, for example.
No, discounting the overseas.
Okay.
Overseas will always be a
Right,
problem because
Right.
different postmark rules. There are some countries that don't have postmark.
That's correct.
And
Right,
Denmark
but
has
we-
well abolished the.
But we get an enormous number that are local, that are postmarked
that is
the
true,
day
too.
after.
Well, some of those are caused by the secondary postmarks that we're encouraging them
That's
not to do.
correct.
Yeah.
And we will continue to encourage them not to do. The secondary postmark meaning not where it entered the postal system, but where it reached Montgomery County.
Yeah.
We don't only have people around the world, and we don't only have people around the county, we also have people who are around the country. And some of them are gonna be in those rural areas with, where the local postal delivery is gonna be slow. And number one, we can hope for speeding it up, but we really have to encourage people that if you're gonna be mailing your ballot in the last week, get a hand postmark.
Because that was my recollection of the rulemaking, is that
Yeah,
the DMV, or this county in particular, is not much affected by the
50-mile radius from
Yeah,
the collection.
right.
center.
Yeah, so
Right.
that we were pretty good there for the most part. We
Right.
do have the college student in Iowa who drops it in the corner box that doesn't get collected for 2 more days and puts it on 2 days after that. Though, there's some of those that are gonna be the issue.
right. And those folks should be advised of the benefits of voting earlier and of visiting your local post office to get a postmark. Which, I'm not sure how much that's gonna affect it for many young people. They have no other experience with the postmark with the postal service,
Yeah.
other than voting.
May I just add something?
Yes, please.
You rightly emphasize that these voters will need to vote early and return their ballots. I think that part of our messaging is to request their vote by mail ballots early.
Yes,
I think that Sandy and her team would like those requests to come in February, March, April. The law requires anyone who submits a request, I believe 60 days before the voting starts, has to be mailed out ballot 43 days before the election.
correct.
We would like those ballots to go 43 days before election day to as many people as possible.
Great.
To give them as much time as possible. And we cannot do anything with that unless we receive a request.
Right.
So if you know that you'll vote by mail, it's same thing, whether you submit request today or 1 week before the election. Same request, same processing time.
Right.
Difference is you will get your ballot much earlier, you'll have more time to vote, you'll have more time to send it back.
And the 60 days is roughly April 20 something.
Something like that. I really don't recall from the top of my head.
So, yes, no, I think that's a good goal to encourage people.
I believe it's 60 days.
I've started to encourage people that, if you encounter a voter who wants to vote by mail and is not already on the permanent list, has not already, it is really not hard to text VBM to 77788. And in fact, I will tell that to every candidate. If you find a supporter and you want they want to vote by mail, they can text VBM to 77788, and the application appears right on their phone.
Board will recall that last month I reported, everyone who voted by mail, but is not in 2024, but is not on permanent vote by mail list. We send them a separate email this time in November.
Asking
Are you still want to vote by mail? If yes, submit the request. You want to be on the permanent? Submit it like that. Like, don't wait last week.
Right.
We will literally identify those voters who are not on the permanent list, but voted by mail in 2024. And send them separate email saying, what are your plans for 2026?
And let me take this opportunity to thank you for that,
Right,
because sending out these emails asking people to think ahead is relatively cost-free and can save us a lot in the future.
we are sending another round in March,
How
so
many of those emails went out?
we didn't send to permanent vote by mail. I think it was 300 and something thousand, because with the permanent vote by mail, we have 460,000 records that we have.
Have you been getting responses?
We were getting responses.
Okay.
As I said, you see voter registration changes. Every time we send emails out, we pick up voters. We find voters who moved, this August to Ohio because life took them there, right? And I always tell everyone, we always say that voter registration is very important, but if you're moving to Ohio, it's item number 50 on your to-do list, so. We find you, we send you an email, you send us form saying I moved to Ohio, remove me from the list, we cancel you.
And it happens right away.
Yeah, because the moment we get then we have a form online that they can, it's fillable. They fill it, just copy it, save it, send it to Sandy Lolita. We cancel
It's
it
very
because it's
easy.
based on the voters request.
Right, I
We
was
don't
gonna
need to
say,
wait.
I was gonna say, it's very easy to cancel a voter registration when the voter requests it.
Yeah,
You know, that, as it should be,
Literally,
you
just
know.
flip to from active to cancel and upload the document with their signature. We are done.
Well, I'll just warn board members that if we are successful in our messaging campaign and we get everyone to request their ballots early, return them early, you can expect to have busy canvases at the early
Let's go
part
for
of the
that.
canvas schedule.
That's
You
what
know,
exactly.
I understand we want it. I'm just asking you all to plan ahead, you know, because you know, we probably have a tendency to think of the cycle of ballots to be kind of similar from year to year, but if we are successful, you know, we'll move it a little bit earlier. So you know, we'll see how that goes. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Boris, on the first page, the cumulative monthly change in
Yep.
party affiliation, that puzzled me a bit. Because you see like every party,
Lost.
including lost.
Yeah.
But that doesn't.
There are two sets of information. If you go to our website, you will find our monthly statistics and you will see our party affiliation changes. That's one data set, which indicates that a Republican move changed the party affiliation to Democrat to unaffiliated. These are like changes of already registered, right? Cumulative is those changes plus canceled and
Right.
addition. So, for example, 1,000 new Democrats registered, 1,500 Democrats got canceled because they passed away, ended up in jail, moved out of the state, whatever. You are net minus 500.
Okay,
Right.
so this chart then includes those who are no longer on the list of
Yeah.
registered
So
voters.
that chart is literally takes the cumulative number of registered Democrats as the last. I take the last number in the monthly statistics. Total number of Democrats in November, total number of Democrats in December, end of December. And what's the difference?
So when you say cumulative, that is from November to December.
Comparing November 30th to December 30th.
Okay, and we don't have the January numbers yet. Yeah.
We
That was
literally.
yesterday.
I understand.
Monthly statistics.
understand. I'm just checking.
I think the board will get monthly statistics today or tomorrow because Lisa and I were out on the website. I don't know if Jerry just put them out. So,
That's okay. We'll anxiously await them. But this is not an indication of people moving from one party to another, although I guess it's included. And that's why it could be down in all
Yeah.
categories. So you're absolutely right.
That's why I said cumulative.
If you move from one party to another, someone is getting the.
Well,
Yeah.
or this means that a lot of people are just leaving the state. you
No,
know?
that's literally, it's combination, but if you, I think page 2 or page 3 of monthly statistics, you will see the party affiliation changes.
Right,
That data captures actually changes party to party,
right. Without leaving the voter rolls completely.
without leaving the votes, like staying on the voter rolls, but changing party affiliation.
Right.
And you can see the month-to-month changes on principal parties and unaffiliated as well.
Okay, are there other questions oh, Margie, go ahead.
I had a question about personnel. So reading this, I'm guessing an offer was made for both of these positions and that person has accepted. If you can,
That's the part of the HR process that we don't necessarily follow nor include in our reports. That's between county HR and the individual.
okay, that's helpful to know. And how many permanent open positions are there still?
So currently with these two positions, we have four vacant positions. And the idea is that these two will be filled and the other two will fill, I hope, in next 2-3 months in line with the current board staff needs.
Okay, so the hope is just to be fully staffed up with the permanent positions before elections?
If I may be very blunt with the board, I took over in January 1st, 2023, and one of the first goals was to be fully staffed, right? I still have not achieved it, okay? and no matter how hard we do try, and we do try to advertise, to interview, everything, it's just the moment you hire one position, someone else leaves. And yeah, it's just a fact of life.
Okay, no, it's helpful to know, because I know there was a point where it was difficult in general, like countywide, to fill positions.
I
So-
think in late 23, early 24, county had 1% unemployment, so yeah, it was difficult.
That's-
Okay, any other questions for Boris about his director's report?
Very well done.
Okay, so seeing none, the next on the agenda is the board attorney's report. Kevin.
Thank you, David. So let me give you an update on the RNC case. And for those that are listening that are not familiar with it, there are 4 plaintiffs that have sued the State Board of Elections, Howard County Board of Elections, Montgomery County Board of Elections, asserting a single count of a violation of the National Voter Registration Act. On Friday, all the defendants, State Board, Howard County, Montgomery County, filed motions to dismiss. In addition, I apologize, I think I sent it this morning, but maybe I didn't. The DNC moved to intervene in the case, and they also filed a motion to dismiss as well. Judge Gallagher this morning granted their motion to intervene in the case, so there'll be an active defendant in connection with the briefing and, if necessary, the discovery that goes on in the case. Sort of overarching arguments are that the National Voter Registration Act does not require perfection. It requires the state administrator to put in place policies, programs that address list maintenance, among other things, and that the state has done so, and that simply relying upon math is not a basis to conclude that the programs themselves are not reasonable and do not meet the standards required under the MVRA to go ahead and meet those requirements. So that's sort of a global, applies to everyone, applies to all defendants. In terms of Howard County and Montgomery County, there's another argument to be made that even if you find that the state's programs are not sufficient, they're the state's programs. And there's nothing to suggest that Montgomery County or Howard County is not doing everything that is now in place that the state board requires. So we have argued that under the Twombly Iqbal standard, that the complaint does not plausibly state a cause of action against the local boards, because they don't really say what the local boards have done that are any different, one, than any other jurisdiction in the state, and two, that would be deficient under the state board's programs. In other words, everything that the state is requiring and has put in place pursuant to federal law, there's nothing in the complaint that asserts that either Howard County or Montgomery County isn't doing those things. So that's really sort of the additional argument as it relates to the local boards. I haven't heard from plaintiff's counsel yet. I wouldn't be surprised if I get a call saying, we need more than 15 days to respond to 4 motions to dismiss, and requesting an extension for 30 or 45 days, which the court's going to grant. And then we'll get an opportunity to file replies to the oppositions, which will then basically complete briefing on the motions to dismiss probably by April. And once the briefing has been completed, it will be before Judge Gallagher, who will be the presiding judge in the case. Judge Gallagher has the option of having a hearing on the pending motions, but hearings in federal court, at least in our federal court, are very few and far between. And Judge Gallagher does not normally hold hearings because under the local rule, she's not required to hold a hearing. So we could have a hearing, but I doubt it. And that then leads to a decision, which probably will take, I don't know, 6 months or so to go ahead and get a decision on the preliminary motions. In the meantime, our United States District Court has a local rule that says that a scheduling order will not be issued until the case is at issue. In other words, until answers have been filed by the defendants, the court does not issue a scheduling order. The local rule goes on to say that you cannot do any discovery. You can't require people to exchange documents. You can't ask them to answer questions. You can't require them to sit for deposition until a scheduling order has been issued. So if the case survives motions to dismiss, I don't think really discovery in a case like this will probably begin in earnest until the end of the year or October, which, Boris, I know October is not an ideal time in the election world to start getting into litigation involving the National Voter Registration Act. But I think that will probably be sort of the timing for when, the case is either dismissed and or court issues a scheduling order to begin discovery in the case. So that's where we are with that particular case. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess my first question, and then I'll turn to Alex, who has his hand up. If it should end up that the time for discovery is October, is there any ability to make it post-election rather than pre-election or vice versa?
Yes. I don't think that will be a problem.
Okay.
Judge Gallagher is very accommodating when it comes to those kinds of requests.
And it does. So it sounds like we're not going to be anywhere near a conclusion on this case before either the primary or the general election of this year.
Certainly not the primary, maybe the general, but
right.
Court has a very busy schedule. This is another case on her docket.
Right. Okay, Alex.
Kevin, I hadn't had a chance to check this part of the complaint, but are the plaintiffs asking for just declaratory relief or injunction or anything else?
Declaratory and injunctive, which that in part, it goes to the local board's arguments, Alex, which is you're asking for injunctive and declaratory relief. We can't give you what you're asking for. If you're asking for changes to be made in terms of the policies and programs that are implemented, well, that is something, that kind of relief can only be granted by the state board administrator.
Or the state legislature, I suppose.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that goes in part to the argument as it relates to the local boards that we can't grant you the relief you're even requesting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kevin? Okay, Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is 2026 election legislation. Boris, did you want to begin?
Just very briefly, staff is tracking election-related bills that are being introduced in both houses of the General Assembly for this 2026 session. We provided board with the updated document with the bills included and dates when there are hearings either in the committees or later on when we go to the full House or the Senate. Again, our intention at this point is just to keep the board informed on all the bills that are being circulated. This document is shared as frequently as possible when we update. There are less bills that are introduced than the last year, which is historical standard so far. But historical standard is that we have less bills in election year than non-election year. There are quite few bills that are being reintroduced from the previous election cycle, and I don't know if there are any particular bills that caught board's eyes then.
Well, there's definitely one that I was going to talk about, but I was going to talk about our local bill first. Our our local bill is not reflected on this chart because it has not been introduced to the full legislature yet. That doesn't happen until after it clears the delegation. However, it has been scheduled for action by the delegation committee, which it's called the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee, and they're meeting on Wednesday at 12 noon, and it's a virtual meeting. It is a work and possible voting session, and it is my hope that it'll be voted out of committee, at that point. Working very hard to make sure that that is the case. If that does happen, the delegation has not noticed it yet, but they typically meet on Friday mornings, and they typically take up the legislation that's been approved by their committees earlier in the week. So there's a reasonable possibility that our bill will be voted out of committee on Wednesday and go to the delegation on Friday. I have reiterated to anyone who listens that our board continues to support the bill as drafted without amendment. As you all know, at one point, people were asking about there's a Maryland constitutional provision about not increasing the salary of incumbent office holders, but this bill would not increase the salary of incumbent office holders, since all of us make, other than the president and secretary, but all regular board members make the same salary as substitute members and vice versa. Kevin has been extraordinarily helpful and found a Maryland Supreme Court case that a unanimous Maryland Supreme Court case that very much supports the bill as drafted, not being a constitutional issue. Now, whether that is the conclusion that others reach remains to be seen. I have always bet on Kevin and will continue to. He's only been doing this for 23 years. So, that's where I'm coming from. Anyway, it is my hope that the bill will continue to proceed. Any questions about that before I talk about the other bill that I wanted to bring up? Okay. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Daniel.
So I don't know if it was a concern, but I think something was brought up about another jurisdiction or so that I think they might be the only one if Montgomery kind of move forward.
If no one has suggested to me that that's a problem.
Okay.
But it is the case that if we convert our substitute members to regular members, Prince George's County would be the only remaining jurisdiction that has substitute members. Now, they've been a special case for more, since before 1998. For one thing, they have a 5-member board where 4 members are members of the majority and 1 member is a member of the minority, with 1 substitute member in the minority and 2 substitute members in the majority. And if there's a vacancy on the Prince George's board, according to the state law, the governor will pick between the 2, if it's in the majority, will pick between the 2 substitute members as to who will succeed. So it's a little bit different for Prince George's than for us. I personally am quite happy that we're doing this on our own, and whatever they're doing over there, they can do over there, and whatever we do over here, we can do over here. I think our case is pretty simple. Well, nothing is simple in the legislative process, as I think everybody who has experience or someone who don't know. But I still think that our case is a lot simpler without having to explain what someone else is doing. Sure. So anyway, I'm not aware of that being an issue. If you should hear that our legislators in Montgomery County are concerned about Prince George's not being included, I'd be interested to know, because that would be news to me.
Okay.
Okay, so the other, I don't know whether to refer to them as one bill or two, because they're identical bills, but the other bill that I wanted to discuss with you all, I have to find the bill numbers, but there's a House bill that is it's House Bill 156. It is being heard in the new House Committee on Government, Labor and Elections on Wednesday. And then there is a companion Senate bill. The number is not in front of me at the moment.
132,
I'm sorry?
132.
Okay, Senate Bill 132, that bill is being heard the following Wednesday on the Senate side. It's an interesting bill, but I'm proposing to you all to give testimony that would be informational in nature, not supporting or opposing, unless the board should have a very strong feeling on supporting or opposing. The thing that caught my attention about these bills, let me give you the brief summary. The brief summary is that these bills would allow an unaffiliated voter to go to the polls at early voting, only at early voting, and request a party ballot, receive a provisional ballot for that party, and have it counted this year in that election. Whereas, as you guys know, the current law is that if you're not already a registered member of a political party, you go to the polls and you request a party ballot. We'll give you a provisional ballot, but up until the bill that passed last year, we would count nothing. And under the bill that passed last year, we would count the vote for the nonpartisan school board. So this would be an opportunity for unaffiliated voters to vote in the primary. It also would set up a very interesting election calendar because you'd be allowed to change your party affiliation in any way up until 3 weeks before the election, in the case of this primary, June the 2nd. Then from June the 3rd to June the 10th, you would not be allowed to make any party affiliation changes. Then from June the 11th to June the 18th during early voting, you would only be allowed to make a party affiliation change if you change from unaffiliated to one of the political parties. And then starting June 19th through the primary election and the aftermath of the primary election until the voter registry reopens, you wouldn't be allowed to make any changes. So part of what I'm concerned about here is that is a very complicated message to get to people, and particularly complicated if the bill doesn't get signed into law until, I mean, the legislature will end in the middle of April, but the governor will be signing bills or vetoing bills until roughly the end of May. So the biggest thing that I would say to the legislature is whatever you do, don't do it this year. Doing it this year would be very challenging for us. It would be challenging for others. I mean, there are, I believe, 187,000 unaffiliated active voters. If I were a candidate in any party primary and a month before the election or less, 187,000 people suddenly became eligible to vote in a race that I've been assuming would be a very different kind of race, that would certainly not make me happy, upset my budget, upset my strategy.
It's a recipe for mischief.
Yes. So in any event, that's kind of where I was coming from. Happy to hear whatever you guys think about this. I did take the preventive measure of signing up because the legislature has very strict rules about signups. You can only sign up on exactly the day that is 2 days before the hearing, only during certain hours. They didn't know how long we'd be here today. So I just figured I would just do that just to cover our bases. I can always get out of it. Ami and then Larry.
Okay, my concern with it is the potential of having an enormous number of provisional ballots. And it's not, I mean, I can envision us getting 100,000 provisional ballots on just this, as just a result of this. You know, that would take an enormous amount of staff time to research every single one of them. And it would take you and me an enormous amount of time to go through them and check every single one.
We wouldn't do it just ourselves. We would enlist our colleagues so they could share it in the fun as well. You know.
I mean, I can see that as just being a horror.
I mean, if you were offering to do it by yourself,
Yeah.
I should rephrase that. On the Democratic side, we will be sharing. On the Republican side, you could decide.
That's a key question. What's provisional about it? what fact is being discerned when you open that provisional ballot? The person that did it, they changed their party. What,
I believe that
There's a mismatch with the voter registration record on our end.
this again?
There's a mismatch with the voter registration record on our
Okay.
system. So you
Yeah.
need a provisional application with a signature to upload to change the
The
record.
registration.
Yeah,
I also think that, there's a requirement that you have to, continue to be voting. I can't remember if it's in the state or the county. I think it's in the state. But, there's a residence issue in addition to a party affiliation issue, I think.
I don't.
You can change many things through the provisional application. You can change
Yeah,
the
right.
residential
Yeah.
address and you can change party
The
affiliation.
application is a voter update.
Yeah,
form. Yeah.
The election judge shall determine whether the voter resides in the county in which the voter seeks to vote. If the voter is a resident of the county, the election judge shall issue the voter a voter authority card, have the voter sign the voter authority card, issue the voter a provisional ballot for the appropriate political party.
So if I may just add, it's not that we will confirming on our end whether the party affiliation matches, which will not. We will be updating party affiliation. We still
Yeah.
have to confirm that that person actually got the right ballot style.
Well, you also have to,
In early voting, someone has to pull that ballot style out of 771, right?
Right.
you also have to confirm that they're an unaffiliated voter, because if they are a Democrat trying to vote
cannot-
Republican or a Republican trying to vote Democrat, that will be rejected.
Rejected in full.
My other question is, what is the emergency rationale for this bill?
I do not know.
What is the rationale for that?
Well, I think again, there's a rationale. I mean, the idea is that, I mean, again, I know there's a lot of administrative work that has to go into this, so my position is not one way or the other. But the rationale is that we're talking about parity a few minutes ago. We're talking about both parties losing registered voters and,
Well, this would be the opposite, because in order to vote this way, we're not saying that unaffiliated voters can vote in the primaries as unaffiliated voters.
that's correct.
They have to join the party
That is correct.
in order to do it, but they can do it at the last minute. Now, let me say, the last minute is only 11 days, or no, not even. It's 9 days later than the deadline, the current deadline.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is basically, instead of having the deadline be 3 weeks before, it's 9 days later for a week and a day that you can do this.
And as you say, in terms of voter education, it's a benefit, and so to speak, to unaffiliated voters.
Mhm.
Only
Right.
who choose a certain way to vote, early voting.
Correct.
that's
I
correct.
can't do it on election day.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Nor by mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's,
So as I said, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Right.
that's a equal protection issue for me, so.
I'm not a lawyer, so.
I'm gonna remind you of that when we talk about print your own ballot. So, okay, so, Alec, did you have anything else?
I guess the only thing I would say, I don't favor this bill. I'm not sure what the rationale, why they're pushing this. I think it's a recipe for mischief and it will create a tremendous amount of extra work for the staff, which I don't think is justified. So I'm not sure, why we should testify on it, but I'm open to suggestion on that. But I don't know that we'd be able to get other than explaining the administrative burden, I don't think we'd be able to get consensus from the board on whether it's supported on the merits.
I don't know if we'll get consensus from the board. I would point out that the sponsor of the bill on the House side is the new chair of the elections subcommittee on the House side. And the sponsor of the bill on the Senate side is Senator Kagan, who, as you know, is the vice chair of the committee with jurisdiction on elections. And my thought was not to get too involved in their bills, other than to provide the information that we have that others may not. In terms of the practical effects of the bill. I have significant concerns about the bill. I would, if they were to seriously consider this bill, at the very least, I would say, why do you want to have a deadline on June 2nd? And, and then a different thing on June 11th? Why wouldn't you at least move? I thought the whole purpose of the June 2nd deadline was to prepare for early voting. So if you don't need to prepare that for early voting, you could actually have it go till June 10th. Okay,
It was to relieve the staff of the burden of processing party affiliation changes so they can
devote their energies to preparing for.
Well, I'm not sure if
Is that
that,
the reason?
The reason the voting votes, you know, who can vote in the primary.
right. Anyway, I don't, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't know that it's a good idea for the Montgomery County Board of Elections to be testifying against the bill as opposed to providing information. I do think that there's information that we would provide that others would not about how it would affect us as the largest jurisdiction in the state. I mean, because what Ami said about the number of provisional ballots, I mean, we had 27,000 provisional ballots. Was that in the 2024 primary?
General.
2024 general?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine, if we had 27,000 and we didn't even have wrong party ballot as, or party change as an issue in a general election. Try and imagine us with this.
But you're gonna require some reprogramming of the poll books too, because you have to have a new reason for a provisional ballot. And the poll book has to issue the voter report authority card with a different party affiliation than what's showing.
It will still go.
You can do that now. You can say, if I walk in and I'm a Dem and I say I want to vote Republican,
It'll let you.
it'll let the person checking you in, check me in as provisional and say Republican, but it's still gonna make me vote provisional.
Because the back will end up matching the ballot that you get,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't match your voter registration.
It'll match the back that I put
Yeah.
out that I asked for.
But then everything after
Which
that
still
is down
have
the hill.
There's no reason.
Different reason, drop down, yeah.
Let me ask you a question of you, Boris. When is it that you have to, or you and the staff have to estimate the number of ballots that you need in different places for the primary?
Ballot order, we should be done March. The moment ballots are finalized, we will have to look at the number of ballot sheets.
Yeah.
We already did the estimate of the potential turnout. And then Ryan is waiting for me. Now I have to do the party breakdown of that turnout. For example, if there's 50% turnout, how many of them will be Democrats, how many Republicans, how many unaffiliated?
So basically, if they passed a bill that became law in April, it would be after you've already ordered the ballots.
That's right.
So we not only,
But
Yeah.
that's something that's workable because we have, I think, a contract with the vendor allows for supplementals. So that could
so
work out.
how about Ami's scenario that there's 100,000 provisionals?
So there are two things here for me. First of all, historically, how many people will change party? Because if
But
I'll be.
it's not changing parties.
It is changing parties in a sense.
Joining a party.
It's joining a party.
Yeah, joining the party. So if I ask every board member to give me plus minus 3%, what will be the turnout in the next primary?
Well, it's not just the turnout.
I know.
It's the turnout among unaffiliated who have a lot of reason not to turn out for a primary, and they'll suddenly have a reason to turn out in a
I
primary.
think you would get at least 10% of the,
I landed on 10% as well.
Yes.
10% is 19,000 provisionals.
okay, I don't
So
want
it's
19,000.
80,700. Yeah, that's.
I think the universe we're talking about, right? I mean, it's not ultra significant. So that would change in terms of your ordering or even impact, because as you're saying, I think as Janet said, some of the work, if it's done on a poll book, can already be done.
Yes, here's the
You
thing,
still have to have enough provisional ballots for people to vote.
That's correct.
771 ballot style in the county, right? Take out unaffiliated, you end up with 514 Democratic and Republican ballot styles. Meaning you have to beef up, you have to add additional order for those ballot styles because unaffiliated can change to any of them during early
right.
voting.
That is correct.
You have to do it 14 times for 14 early voting sites. And I'll tell you right now, put money on the side, ballot order will be fine. We need a cart to transport that. Okay, and then now you could look at the route where you have a black cars with the ballots. There's Mindy. Mindy will pack, let's say, one early voting site or two early voting sites on a truck. Suddenly, she packs it completely. She has to squeeze in 3 more cars. We are changing routes. We are adding routes to the vendor, right? We need more time. Everything changes. We will deal with all of that, right? 18,000 provisionals. one provisional election judge per location? No.
Yeah, you're gonna need multiple.
And you look at a minimum two-page ballot.
We will see, but all the names are, all names are there.
This year.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you have to take the volume.
We don't know until the final
You have to
deadline.
take the volume of potential provisionals, and then hopefully it will be well spread, but we all know that we will not have the same number of provisionals in White Oak and Silver Spring,
Absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
So, in White Oak, we'll let maybe one provisional judge, maybe two
Yeah.
max. In Silver Spring, we are looking 4 to 5.
Because we already sent two there
And,
already.
and last time we learned it's not enough,
Right.
right?
No, you should be sending an extra provisional to any, yeah, I mean, basically, anywhere where we've had issues in the
Well,
past.
yeah.
But that's changes a lot
That
as
also
well.
affects the footprint. You're gonna have three regional judges, we're gonna have three regional tables, you gotta
I know.
have room for these people. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big footprint, yeah.
So it's on an operational level, it's a bit of a task to sit down, so.
Well, I
can't.
go back to what Larry said in the conversation to our lunch event. This is a logistic nightmare.
To be clear, Larry at lunch was not talking about this bill, he was talking about logistics in general. So,
Now, it's, as I said, it's a bit of an exercise that has to be, I'm just trying to, I'm not saying that nothing is impossible or easily done. It has to be thought out from the beginning till the end.
You need to find an army logistics expert to work that.
Yeah,
But
but
the question remains, why now? I mean, what is the emergency? And
I mean,
I
yeah.
haven't found that any place.
so
Jimmy.
my other thing, I think there's no doubt it needs to be thought through, and I'm also happy that we're actually thinking it through now, because regardless of the deal, where the deal goes.
let me just say, I'm happy to think things through that require our attention, but if we were to think through every piece of election legislation, we would do nothing else.
I agree.
Because and even in an election year where there's fewer of them.
Well, I think what we need to tell them is if you insist on this bill, don't do it until the next election cycle. Don't make it effective instant.
Okay, Keena or Margie, anything you want to say?
I mean, I echo what was said of my colleagues and thinking about the amount of bodies that will be needed across the board. And quite frankly, the amount of time that it takes to recruit the number of volunteers for operations as it is a lot. And so there needs to be a couple more, I would say at least another season. And just in time to not only recruit the number of volunteers, but also educate the public on this as well. And so the fact that it's being set as this emergency timeline does not give enough time for either one of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, training a provisional judge is not easy.
Exactly.
And recruiting them is not so easy either. There are a lot of people who don't feel confident enough to.
I just don't, they don't look good in orange.
Well, but it's also,
Just for the record, provisional tables have an orange. Everything is orange.
Right.
Provisional judges.
Larry was not,
People know that.
By the provisional judge's orange jumpsuit.
yeah, Larry was not referring to any other reason to wear orange. Says the guy who went to two schools where orange was one of his school colors. So, okay, Margie, anything to add?
So as the bill is written, it's effective this year.
Correct. As the bill is written, it says, be it further enacted that this act is an emergency measure, is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public health or safety, has been passed by a yea or nay vote supported by 3/5 of all the members elected to each of the two houses of the General Assembly, and shall take effect from the date it is enacted. So in order to have something take effect on the date of enactment, they have to make those determinations. And I would be struggling to come up with the rationale for why that is the case.
You're saying it would have to pass by a 3/5 majority
Correct.
in both houses?
Correct.
And the
Now, I don't
governor,
think it can pass.
the governor could veto it though.
And the governor could veto it. That is correct.
What is, Mr. President, what would be your rationale for saying anything about the bill now as opposed to other bills? Is it because of its sponsors or because of the perhaps potential.
No, it's not because of the sponsors. The sponsors are almost a complicating factor because I don't want to offend the sponsors.
Right, right.
But no, it's because of the idea of an emergency bill that could have such a wide impact on us that really, by the time it's ready to come to us, they're asking for something that's going to be, I never say impossible where, elections are concerned because, we managed to do all kinds of things that seemed impossible in 2020 and 2022. But I think it'll be really, really challenging to try and do all this year for all the reasons that have been stated, the need for space, the need for people, the need for education, the need for recruitment. And recruitment of one of the hardest jobs, because because
About a month, maybe. Because if it got passed at the end of the session, then it goes to the governor and he has to sign it, and we don't know if he'd sign it or veto it.
right.
So we could have less than a month to
Right.
deal with.
We could. Hypothetically, they could pass it sooner, and he could act on it sooner. But in my experience, nothing happens sooner than you think.
Yeah, that's
So,
I mean, but
yeah,
our little bill to make substitute members, regular members, drew the attention of legislative analysts on constitutional basis.
Right.
Has this bill been analyzed likely? Because I think it has constitutional flaws.
I'll just say that it's going to that same committee. I do not know, whether that's been the case. I don't necessarily want to be the person who is constantly bringing up constitutional
No, I
issues.
understand. The question was more processed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with Alex. I think in terms of, except for logistics and we don't know what this means yet. I think the less said, the better at this point.
Right.
By us, by the board.
Right.
So for full disclosure, a version of this was introduced by, a couple of years ago. And
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, a version of this bill was introduced a couple of years ago.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't
about
remember.
here. It
257,
was introduced, huh?
House Bill 257 last session.
That is good.
Who introduced it last session?
I have to.
Is this the Lily Chi one?
That is, the version, not this one, but the one.
Well,
previous that I tested.
she's had bills to have an absolute open primary. Are you talking
And that's
about?
different.
Are you talking about that, or are you talking about this?
No, this one I know was previously, but I'm also aware of Delegate Lily Chi's open primary.
There's another bill that opens primary completely. I believe it's House Bill 221.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, to me, that's a very different scenario in a lot,
it is.
in
Yes, it
a
is.
number of different ways. For one thing,
Yeah,
it does.
I brought it up because of Larry's question about, and I know, as I say, a version of this bill was introduced.
That's fine.
Boris, what was the bill number from last session you said?
I took 257.
257.
So let's see. Nope, that's not it. Not from 25. Was it?
Okay.
24.
24.
Sorry,
Okay.
say 24.
That's different. See if I can.
That must have likewise been an
Yeah,
emergency. right?
it was introduced 2024 regular session.
Yeah.
And that was Delegate Shee's bill, allows an unaffiliated voter to request to affiliate at an early voting center. Okay, looks like I haven't analyzed it, but it looked like it's the same bill. And it had a cross file that year of Senate Bill 99, which was also Senator Kagan. So, yes, and that bill went to the Ways and Means Committee and looked like it did not get acted upon at the committee level.
So that, and again, not to take much time on this.
Yes.
My only thing is.
Is the state board?
Hang on, Daniel's speaking.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, just say it's been out there, right? So people have been looking at it. I just don't want us to be oblivious about that.
Well, Daniel, what do you think we should do?
I don't know. What I mean, that it's, as I said, that's why I say I don't have a position yet until, we have experts who have to look at this, right?
All I'm asking you is, do you have a position on my giving informational testimony about the effect of this bill on us if it passes this year and takes effect this year?
It's on the other side.
No, I think as a board member, I cannot tell you.
Yes, you can.
I can
Yes,
say
you can.
it, really?
Well, you certainly can tell whether I'm gonna say I'm speaking on behalf of the board or not, or not you personally.
Sure,
just all of us.
sure.
I mean,
And
that's,
is
you
that
know,
gonna be your position in this testimony?
My
That you're
po-
speaking on behalf of the board?
if I get 4 votes or 3 votes,
Talking about.
you know, then yes, I would like to speak on behalf of the board, and I'd like to speak on behalf of the board. Part of why I was suggesting not taking a position on the bill overall was because people might want to spend more time thinking about it, et cetera. But to me, the impact of it taking effect in 2026 is an over the top, must be addressed issue.
Yeah.
The whether this is a good idea, as an overall matter. I mean, in general, my principle, and I think most election officials' principle is, no major changes that affect voters in an election year. Whether Margie and Larry have a vote that counts, when we're all in the room together, doesn't affect the voters. I mean, well, it will affect the voters because of your brilliant ideas, but it will not affect how they vote. But this, this has the potential to not only affect our staff, not only affect us, but also affect lines at the polls, how crowded it is in the polling places.
Canvas.
The canvas could go on for even longer, it'll take even longer to get results.
I get you.
That's what I'm thinking in terms of the effect of the emergency legislation.
Is the state board likely to weigh in? Do they?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
But they don't get heavily involved in the detailed logistics.
Exactly. There's no one who's as involved in the logistics as we are.
That's right.
Because even if we were a much smaller county, we'd have a much smaller problem. We have so many unaffiliated voters. I don't know if anybody, is there any county that has as many unaffiliated voters as we do? I would bet not. I haven't done.
Sheer number, definitely not.
I'm sorry?
Like total, like.
That's what I'm talking about, sheer numbers.
Percentage, I don't know, maybe.
No,
but
sheer numbers,
doubt.
sheer numbers is what I'm talking about, because when we talk about the number of provisional ballots, that's sheer numbers too.
Yeah.
Not every unaffiliated voter wants to vote in a primary, but they've also never had the opportunity.
We don't know whether they will want.
That's correct. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Okay, is there anyone who wants to, should we just do this by consensus, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll
Or
make a motion.
Alex had his hand up first?
Mr. President, I did have a question.
Okay,
I'd like to see or read what you plan to say.
I wasn't actually going to submit written
Oh,
testimony
I see.
because it's only in 2 days from now. I could certainly, I was taking notes on the conversation that we were having today, and I can certainly give you the talking points that I plan to use. I could reevaluate in terms of if I can find the time, but they actually would prefer that my written testimony be uploaded today. I consider that to
right.
be impossible.
Right.
So given the day that you guys know I'm having, but if you're interested, or if my colleagues are interested in my talking points, I have no, happy to share, assuming I'm speaking on behalf of the board. If I'm speaking on behalf of myself, that's an extra task that I would probably skip, but just because of the press of other things.
And I guess I'd like to also make clear that the board's concurrence with your testimony would not imply support or opposition to the bill if it was
Right.
not an emergency measure.
If that is the position the board would like to take, I am very comfortable with that position.
Yeah,
That is where I was going with, that was where I was planning to go with it. I was not planning to go in and say, here's all the reasons why I wouldn't do this. I was planning to go and say, there's a lot of things that would be needed, resources among them. Here's the impact. Remember, I get 2 minutes. So I'll have to speak fast and give kind of generalities, but the number of provisional ballots is a concern, and I think it's very hard. I think 10% is just a guess. Yeah, I think it could be less. I think it could be much more. Because we just have no idea. We know that there's a number of people who register unaffiliated because they're not that interested in politics. And if that's the case, those voters are probably less interested in voting in a primary. But there's also a number of people who register unaffiliated because they hate this thing or that thing about both parties or each party. And for those people, they could very easily say, okay, this year I'm voting this way, that,
And it much depends on what the primary traffic is. The
That's
presidential year, you get a lot of people, I want to vote for this party, well,
Right.
you're not registered yet.
right,
You get a
Right.
lot more traffic in
right,
primary.
right.
I'm
And
not sure in this election scenario what the primary, kind of tectonics would be that would drive a funny to say, oh, I want to vote in that primary now.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a fairly hotly contested countywide race for county executive and for county council at large and, et cetera. And it could very well be that there'd be people who'd want to vote in that.
I think
Yeah.
even the federal races, we have very contested.
Yeah, that's true. We have there's a contested race in the 6th congressional district for sure. So,
Everybody's laughing.
let the record show that there were no words involved in that.
Equal opportunity clause.
In that particular reaction. So, if you want to make a motion, feel free to make a motion, but I guess I want to give people a lay of the land.
Well, all right, I would like to move that we authorize you to speak on behalf of the board in two respects. First, that you emphasize the logistic problems of trying to do something this late before the election cycle. And second, that the board has not attempted to take a position either pro or con the substance of the bill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I know Lisa's not sitting there, but the motion was by Ami and the second was by Margie. Do I have that correct? Okay. Voting members, all those in favor of Ami's motion, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Okay, so logistical issues and explicitly saying that we're not taking a pro or con position on the substance of the bill. I'm very comfortable with both of those things. Quite frankly, I think we would all benefit from having another year to figure this out. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on the subject of legislation? Okay, then let me get back to my agenda here. Okay, the next is the website update.
I'll be very, very brief. At the very opening of my election director report, I notified the board of very slow traffic in December, which is historical. And I think the numbers on the web site traffic indicate that. We went 3 times, 1/3 of the traffic from November in December. Nothing unusual. It's December, holiday season, people travel, people enjoy. So these numbers are nothing unexpected. Again, we will see maybe even January, not that much, but as of February and March, we should see increased traffic, especially when we roll out our invitation for everyone to sign up for the serve as election judge. Start.
You may get some increased traffic from people stuck at home during the snow.
Fair enough, fair enough.
So,
But as I said,
yeah,
December, nothing surprising.
sure.
It's simple as that.
Any questions about that? A question for you, Boris. I know that we have a filing deadline that is still 3 weeks from now.
Right.
But I'm wondering if it makes sense to, in some fashion, on our website to, I know that it's on our board site, but more prominently, let people know that there's going to be a meeting on March 16th with the candidates and campaigns that they are invited to. Because if we wait till February 24th, a lot of people will already be scheduling things on that day. Remember, we're having a virtual meeting on March 16th. We're inviting the candidates and campaigns.
We can, tomorrow, we can change the date and the time for the next board meeting, and we can put it in some different color, emphasizing this is the board.
That's not red.
Let us
Some,
take a look.
some,
Come up with something.
Yeah.
some form of emphasis so that when candidates and campaigns come to our website, they will at least be
Fair
somewhat
enough.
forewarned. I've started telling people when I talk to them that, because I do know that a lot of candidates and particularly elected officials, they schedule themselves very far in advance. So, and it is a virtual meeting, so they don't have to schedule too much time, but, we're talking about probably an hour between 3 and 4 o'clock on March 16th. But I want to start getting the word out on that. I only thought of that because of the word website, and I apologize if that was out of order or whatever. And of course, I don't even have to say that the next thing on the agenda is outreach because Dr. Z is already at the table.
Hello.
So thank you for anticipating my next move, and please proceed.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Happy holidays, happy new year. Outreach slow, obviously, it's the time of the month. Individuals want to be home with their family and friends and loved ones. But of course, I was checking kind of the bandwidth online regarding our recent media open house. Unfortunately, it was a Thursday, 22nd of January, and then on Friday, the precedence of getting ready with the storm. Schools canceling, government was closing, modified schedules. We technically, everything got kind of buried in the snow. So there wasn't a lot of noise. I'm still searching, saying kind of thank you to those who were present. What I'll do is I'll plan to put some pictures, some videos from the day.
Great.
I was looking to hope to see there was something I could grab
Right.
and then
right.
throw some imagery, but
Right.
there's nothing. So I'll put some.
And I don't know if you were listening earlier, but from my perspective, it's an investment in the future to have had them here regardless of whether they do anything.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think there's a benefit, and I think sharing it with the public is good. I was just hoping
Yeah.
to see some coverage to
Sure.
grab and then,
Sure.
to also expand our followers, people that will follow us on
We will
social
blame
media.
Mother Nature. Yeah.
Obviously, because of Mother Nature, Help America Vote Day was canceled, obviously, because half of the team members had difficulties getting out of their homes. Like my street wasn't even shoveled until Tuesday.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we will reschedule something with the public library system. We go with them and we collaborate over the years. Also today, we're starting our second leg of our high school visits at the public schools. Obviously, today
Not today.
at BCC and Blake was canceled. We will be there tomorrow. We're rescheduling another visit to those schools. We want to make sure there's equal attention placed to all of them. And also we're scheduling with private schools as well. So we'll be going to our Lead a Good Council on the 27th of February and I believe the 13th of March. But I'll share that with the board and we'll publicize that on social media. And we're still working with other organizations and kind of the smaller Jewish day schools, Chinese day schools. There's a lot of different educational institutions, even homeschools. So we're trying to do some outreach across the county. We're also going to start ramping up at Montgomery College, all their campuses. Also the Universities of Shady Grove, they have a student open house actually tomorrow. And then they're going to be holding later on in the month HBCU fair at the Universities of Shady Grove. So we're going to start ramping up those with our academia neighbors in Montgomery County to get individuals not only registered to vote, obviously update their registrations, etc., but encourage them to serve as poll workers. Let me see. So we talked about that. Once again, board members, any events, send them my way. We'll set up the pins and we'll knock them down and we'll be there hand in hand. And so if there's any opportunities, please share that with me in advance.
Or schools to visit,
As well.
Okay.
Yes, please. No matter how large or small, and especially schools as well. Because we're going to start looking at future vote recruitment as well, looking about March. Once we get into the middle schools, especially the cohort, the middle school kids of those students who are 15 and under. And then those who are 16 and older, we also emphasize and encourage them not only to register to vote if they meet the state requirements to do so, but also to serve as an election worker. And that's pretty much it. We're just gaining a little bit more speed. And then we're looking forward to working with you hand in hand as always. And any invitation, no matter how large or small, we'll be there.
Are there questions for Dr. Z? Keenan.
Well, commentary.
Commentary is fine too.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just echoing what Dr. Zelai said about board members inviting him to meetings. I took it upon myself working with the members of the Black diaspora groups for the county executive's office to congregate together to basically knock one pin, hopefully at one time versus three, in an effort to make sure everyone is voter ready by this season. So not only should you be reaching out to have him come to your meetings, but also if there's an opportunity to congregate as many people as possible so that we can just cut down the amount of efforts to keep going out there. And then allowing him to then work with this team to spend other times with other people in other places.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Dr. Salaya? I'll just mention to you, we don't have to discuss it now, but I forgot to tell you this earlier, that there is a bill in Annapolis that would allow for SSL hours plus pay. And we should talk about whether that one is worthy of our attention, et cetera, because we've talked about it from last year.
Oh, yeah.
Et cetera. I have no idea what its prospects are.
Okay, definitely this.
So anyway, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Next on the agenda is old business. Does anyone have any old business? Okay, then after that comes new business, and Boris, I think you are up for whatever it is you'd like us to do with the language access.
Yeah, and then I would like quite a few lawyers at the table to help me here.
Well, good thing for you is you have a few here.
Kevin included. So
Kevin is remotely on the table. Not at the table, Kevin, on the table.
Yeah, so I would appreciate, and David correct me now to say it properly, if the board can pass a motion to give me authority to provide additional language assistance as deemed necessary and possible within our capacities and means in the county. I don't know what the proper terminology would be.
Let me
box it in.
Yeah, and let me ask a question about that. If this law didn't exist, what do we already do?
So last year we started. Last year we put on the first front page the electronic version of our sample ballot, and we provided every polling place has access to election line, right? That if you speak some language that we don't have anyone in the polling place that speaks that language, chief will provide the phone, connect to election line, and provide the interpretation for you to go forward. Montgomery being Montgomery, I'll be very honest with you, we pull the data after every election. We see at which polling place language line was used for which language.
Excellent.
And we send election judges to speak that language for the next election there.
Excellent.
So our numbers of data of these instances where language line is used are minimal because they are one time off. Because systematically every year we just find election judges who speak, let's say 0107, there was a call to language line because Vietnamese. You'll find someone who speaks Vietnamese for 107 next time. So these are the things that are happening anyhow, right? Now the idea is for these three languages that I added, the law requires that we put that sample ballot in electronic version on the website for those three languages as well.
Okay.
And my understanding and my idea is, and I believe I speak and get board support, if the county can, through their own translation services, provide translation of that sample ballot, let's say French or Korean, and we can get it for no additional cost for us, why wouldn't we put it on the website?
Right.
Especially, I have to get those numbers. I believe that we have quite significant population of French speaking, Korean speaking.
I was surprised that the French speakers were not on that list.
I think that the issue is not the total number of French speakers, it's the number of who don't speak English well.
Right.
That's the word. So we are talking about 2% or 4,000, but that means the requirement. But again, if this would be a cost to the board, I would say yes, but I believe that this is not. The second thing is the law requires certain posters to be placed at the polling places in these languages that are identified by the state administrator based on the census. I'm not proposing to change anything there because that will roll itself out because the poster will say if you need assistance, right, access the chief judge. I'm just saying if we can translate sample ballot through the county services, if Sharon can place it on our website at the top, so we have English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, American, French, Korean. I'm just saying why not?
But it's electronic. It
It's
doesn't
electro-
require you to print.
No, because printing, how? To whom to send it?
Right.
Where
Yeah.
to send it, right?
Yeah.
So, but creating electronic version that we can, anyone can direct anyone
Yeah.
to that booklet of 14 pages, which talks about election dates, ways to vote, 3 ways to vote, locations of early voting centers, traffic, instructions, text,
So it wouldn't be the specific ballot itself.
No.
It would essentially be the booklet.
booklet with instructions. Ballot itself, as I said,
That's federal, right?
771 of them, if they go to text, check, you can go and find what your ballot style is and everything.
George, just as confirmation, the changing of the, or rather, the addition of other languages for a ballot, that's dependent upon a federal law,
No.
yes?
Yeah,
No,
I think so.
Yes.
Say it again.
It's a two
The
or
reason,
three.
the reason.
Spanish 203, section 203.
Right, that's-
Yeah,
yeah,
but only
that's
Spanish,
federal law.
Thank
yeah,
you.
that's federal law, only Spanish qualifies.
Right.
This is the state law.
Yeah.
Right, and the state law, as I understand it, did not talk about the ballot itself.
No.
It talked, yes.
If you see the designation by the state administrator, it lists 4 languages, Spanish
Right.
included, but I take the Spanish we
Right.
already do beyond
Right.
what
Right.
based on the
So,
federal.
okay, so what you're looking for is support from us to essentially endorse your efforts to add additional language access without cost.
Yeah.
And then if there is cost, you come back to us.
I'll be glad to come.
Yeah.
There's a cost to the county. Like, I'm just saying,
No,
this
no,
is the
without-
service that's provided by the
No,
county.
no,
We're just
no,
using it.
No, okay, is there a motion to that effect?
One question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because in your initial description, that you said that you were looking, you had to request a waiver of something
Yeah.
to do this. What are we waiving? We should know that in the motion, I think.
Fair enough. So, the law says that we have to undertake certain activities as prescribed by the law for the languages identified by the state administrator and who will notify every local board by February 1st of the election year. Basically notify us which languages are affected. If the board would like to expand, right,
That was,
that list or the activities, whatever, we have to submit a waiver to the state board to get the permission to do it.
What are the activities? Is it beyond just the sample ballot? Is it other?
We are talking about adding languages here.
the activity is simply getting the county service to translate it to those other additional languages.
So,
To translate what?
The book.
sample ballot, books.
Sample ballot.
Are there other activities potentially for French and the other?
I'll be honest with the board. I cannot speak what will be our opinion or understanding year from now. We haven't rolled this law ever.
No, right.
So let's roll it out with the minimum requirements that state administrator wants us in the polling places. And what we want to do at the website for additional languages before we start talking about expanding even.
Well, all I'm suggesting is I would just want our motion to be broad enough that if something comes up,
Fair enough.
I don't want you every time, there's one additional, okay, so it's not at the polling place and it's not on the website, but the organization of French-speaking Montgomery Countyans invites you to come do something. I want you to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Now, I assume that under our normal outreach, we would just do it. And if they needed an interpreter, for example, we'd get one. And I don't know that we would need the state's permission to do that.
Fair enough. For me to submit the request, I have to follow the state form. The question is basically, when did your board approve plans and funding, if applicable, for supplemental assistance? So,
And do we know what supplemental assistance means?
for me, supplemental assistance is what we are proposing. The proposal is to translate the sample ballot in 3 more languages or 2, whatever we can achieve
Okay.
with the county, and put
Okay.
it on the website.
Well, I think what I would want our motion to do is to authorize you to provide supplemental assistance for additional languages and to apply for any necessary waivers from the state in order to do so.
That's very.
Does that sound
Fine.
okay?
I'll say-
Sounds good.
Okay, everybody,
But the understanding is that, right, it applies to the preparation of an electronic sample ballot. Nothing more.
my understand, what I want to do right now is I want to cover him for this waiver. Because any decision that's made about how we do this, we don't need the state's help. We can, we can decide what we want to do. It sounds like what we anticipate doing is exactly that. It's the sample ballot and the election judges, right?
I have to be,
But I don't want to make it so that it requires us to keep coming back and keep going back to the state if something else comes up. And I also know that we do a lot of outreach. I mean, the county provides all kinds of documents in additional languages beyond what the law requires, just as a matter of, that's what the county does.
I think that board would expect me and the staff to utilize existing counties' capacities to enhance our work. And
Yeah.
using county translation services, I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, like we have it, that's why.
Right. But if it turns out that something else comes up,
Absolutely.
we're back here in the middle of March. And you can tell us at that point if there's any, if there's anything else.
Fair, absolutely fair.
At this point, I'm trying to get Boris so that he can do his waiver request.
And I just want the board to be aware, like I want to do this, but I also have to be very much aware of our internal capacities, how much we can do in one go in the first year. So for me, rolling out these translations, if we can get them on the website first year, is quite enough.
I assume the state has not given us any additional funding for this additional responsibility.
Okay, so the law says that each polling place should have electronic device that should provide for communication between the voter and translator somewhere there. In our case, we are fine. We already rolled out our tablets for the polling places. I believe other counties have to purchase them.
Okay.
And the law says that the state covers software, counties cover hardware. And county covers other expenses, I believe.
So you're saying we actually are getting some state help for this activity, or is it because we've already bought our tablets that we've already paid for what the state is paying for in other places?
The state is not paying for tablets anywhere. Counties
No,
have
no,
to.
the
Software.
software.
The state will still have to give us software. Because
Okay.
we still have to upload it to.
Okay, so we're getting what everyone else is getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to go to the county and
Okay.
ask for money
I
for the
take
tablets.
it back. I thought it was another unfunded mandate, but it's not. It's a partially funded mandate. Which I guess is as good as we get these days. So anyway. Okay, so I guess what I said before is a motion because you seconded it.
That's correct.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Boris, thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay, is there any other new business? Okay, I'm gonna hold off on the executive session for just a moment because we need to, we'll do that right before we adjourn. Next is the approval of the minutes of the December 15th meeting. You guys may recall that Keena did her initial review far earlier than I ever did. So as a result, we had a whole conversation about the minutes a couple weeks ago. I don't remember whether the last version was mine or yours, Ami.
This version was my editing of your last version.
Okay, and I don't recall the date.
January 20th.
Oh, good for you.
I've got it here in my folder.
I'm sure that was not an intentional choice of dates for any particular reason, just to be clear, just a coincidence. Okay. So I need to look for something from Ami on January 20th. I just want the record to be clear as to which version of the minutes is. We are voting on
1:20, 10 p.m.
2 weeks to vote.
Yeah, there it is. So I have it down as the actual email is from January 20th at 10:22 p.m. That would be, so the version that's attached to that would be the version that we would be voting on. Would someone like to make a motion?
Absolutely. Mr. President,
Daniel, go ahead.
I move that we approve the minutes that was sent.
Okay, so we're
January 20.
Okay, so we're approving the minutes as sent by Ami on January 20th at 10:22 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Alex. Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hands. It is unanimous. Okay, future action item, no, future meetings. I'm sorry, I skipped future action items. That was not good of me.
I just wrote down the website March meeting information for campaigns and candidates.
Right,
Update on our website.
right,
And you had a question about media stories following their visit to the board. I think Gilberto
right.
covered that.
Yeah, he covered it. I
So
don't,
that's
you know,
really well done.
consider that to be an ongoing request if something comes out, but I'm sure it
Yeah.
sounds like he's already on it.
He's following.
So anyway, okay, that's it for future action items. As far as our future meetings go, we have a virtual meeting for Monday, March the 16th. That will be including the meeting with the candidates and campaigns. The plan would be to have the meeting with the candidates and campaigns first, in order to have a specific time that we can say, this is when we're doing it. I'm sure that no matter what we do, someone will say that it's a bad time, but you know, that's when we meet. We have not yet decided what we're doing with our April and May meetings, and if it's okay with the board, let's leave that for now. If people have ideas, let me know. And then, before we adjourn, we need a motion for our executive session, and our executive session today is for two reasons, two of the statutory reasons. One is to protect the privacy or reputation of individuals concerning a matter not related to public business, and the other is to comply with a specific constitutional, statutory, or judicially imposed requirement that prevents public disclosures about a particular proceeding or matter. Is there a motion for?
Mr. President,
Yeah, yes.
I had one more thing I wanted to remind you about.
Okay.
As a matter of the public business we discussed today.
Oh, okay,
That there is another bill, HB 221,
okay,
that is proposing an amendment to the Maryland Constitution authorizing a voter to change the voter's political party affiliation at an early voting center or at a precinct polling place on election day during a primary election to vote the ballot for the voter's new affiliation.
is it an emergency bill?
I don't know that it is, but it is certainly broader, but it's subject matter related to the one
Okay.
that would be testifying.
All right, so it has been heard at the same hearing. And it is proposing an amendment to the Maryland Constitution, which means that it would have to go on the ballot. So it wouldn't take effect.
Correct.
It wouldn't take effect for this election.
Okay.
So you guys can't imagine how good it is to be told you're correct by Kevin. That, you know, but thank you, Alex. It looks like, yes, this particular bill says during a primary election, a voter may appear in, this is allowed at an early voting center or a polling place, and change their party affiliation and vote the ballot for the new party affiliation. So it's not limited to unaffiliated voters. It actually covers everybody.
But it doesn't talk about provisional ballots.
It does not talk about provisional ballots either. But it is an amendment to the Constitution. And since it's an amendment to the Constitution, it would, I think it requires, does it require a supermajority of the General Assembly? I think it requires, Kevin, you can probably help me out here.
I believe it does.
But whatever the case, it would not take effect for this election. So I think given how we approached the last bill, I would leave this one alone because if it were to go to before the voters and the voters were to pass it, we'd have plenty of time to.
Let them decide.
Yeah, yes.
Which bill are you referring, Alex? Sorry.
HB 221, primary elections change.
That's open for everyone.
Yes. Okay. So I need an executive session motion as I described. Are you raising your hand to say you want to make the motion? You have something you want to say, or you're pointing to somebody?
I believe Larry's person who had.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the public meeting to then proceed into the executive meeting at this time.
Okay, and again, that's for reasons number 2 and 13 that I read before. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Alex. All those in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Members of the public, thank you very much. We are going to be leaving you now, but we appreciate your attending.
Okay, then you will look at.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, we're not leaving, they're leaving.
Right.
No, you gotta get on.
Everyone gets off.
Everyone gets off? Okay,
Janet will just connect your link that was sent